The Bryant's Warehouse.
Michael J. Fox, Monica Lewinsky, and JAG in training on ET.
Narcotics gangs and the Mexican killing fields. The digging begins for victims of Mexican drug thugs as anxious families wait for word on their loved ones. Protesters clash with police, delaying the start of the World Trade meeting in Seattle. On the CBS Health Watch, important clues to the mystery of Gulf War syndrome. And on the Weather Watch, a first look at what you can expect in the Y2K hurricane season.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. There are fresh reminders tonight of how dangerous the operations of narcotics gangs have become all along the U.S. southern border. The first human remains were recovered today from suspected mass graves used by murderous Mexican narco thugs. Mexican authorities say 2 sites just south of the Texas border may have been used to bury more than 100 victims, including some U.S. citizens. U.S. agents, including forensic experts, are at the scene. CBS's Jim Stewart, who broke the story here last night, has new details for you.
The first piece of evidence found by FBI investigators was a human scalp. Later, they discovered a cave and suggestions that people had been tortured inside. Now they are surveying the surrounding ranch land, and more officials say they're convinced they're standing atop a giant killing field. Only they still aren't sure how many bodies they'll find.
There are about 100 people who have disappeared, and we're in the process of investigating that.
At least 8 arrests have been made thus far. More are expected. President Clinton blamed the murders directly on Mexican narcotics gangs.
It's a horrible example, apparently, of the excesses of the drug dealing cartels in Mexico.
FBI officials point specifically to the gang of the late Amado Carrillo Fuentes, who died in 1997 following some botched plastic surgery, and whose death sparked a wave of shootouts as his brother fought for control. Now the Fuentes cartel is in undisputed command of drug shipments through Juarez and neighboring El Paso, and has frequently used murder to stay in power. This is a delicate case for the FBI. The burial sites are on Mexican soil. Most of the victims are Mexican. But the danger of the Fuentes cartel has become so great that U.S. officials feel they must press Mexico to accept American help. The problem is many of these disappeared victims were last seen in the company of Mexican police. Dan?
Jim Stewart. Beyond the cross-border politics, forensics, and detective work, there is the human horror being felt on both sides of the border by relatives of the missing and the people who live in turf pretty much ruled by murderous drug traffickers. CBS's Maureen Maher is tracking this part of the story.
From the air, it looks like nothing more than a fenced-off plot of desert. But the discovery of 2 mass graves just south of the dusty border town of Juarez, Mexico, while a surprise, is not a shock to locals. This man says lately they have seen many more deaths, even assassinations in broad daylight related to drug trafficking. In the early 1990s, the Mexican government tried cracking down on the multi-billion-dollar drug cartels. But soon after, people in Juarez began vanishing, and many suspected at the hands of Mexican security police. More than 200 are missing. Human rights activist Jaime Urbea says cries for help from relatives have gone unanswered on both sides of the border.
The American consul doesn't want to know about these problems, don't care. They give you the lip service that they are supposed to do.
Perhaps one reason the U.S. government has been reluctant to get involved is that many of those who vanished were known drug traffickers, but others were simply innocent victims in a progressively violent war on drugs.
I just want to know.
One way or the other.
Maybe if it's them, I could have a place where I could go and set flowers. And if it's not them, I'll keep on looking.
Claudia Sanchez has been looking for her parents for 5 years. They disappeared after her father, a former petty officer in the U.S. Navy, invented and sold a highly sensitive listening device to the Mexican government. For the Sanchez family and others, unearthing the bodies of the missing will likely mean digging elsewhere for more answers.
If they find them, will you find some sense of peace, or will you still look for the justice?
I'll look for justice. Somebody had to do this. And I need justice.
But justice works on its own timetable, and finding out who may take even longer than discovering where. Maureen Maher, CBS News, Juarez, Mexico.
World leaders are in Seattle tonight hoping to set the economic agenda for the 21st century. But today, at least, they were overshadowed by some carefully orchestrated violent protests in the streets. Police battled with self-styled anarchists and other more moderate demonstrators, some of whom blocked key intersections and forced cancellation of the opening ceremony of the World Trade Organization meeting. Tonight in London, protesters used a burning van as a barricade as they clashed with police around a central railroad station. President Clinton will be in Seattle for the conference tomorrow. Today, the president said he sympathized with the protesters' concerns about jobs and damage to the environment and felt they should be heard at the meeting. That was before some of the more radical elements turned the protests into street battles. CBS News White House correspondent John Roberts is in Seattle tonight.
It was the first act of destruction in what had been days of rowdy but nonviolent protest against the WTO.
Stop it! You're making fools of our country and our city!
A small group of troublemakers attacked a symbol of Seattle's economic success, smashing the windows of a Starbucks restaurant.
It's self-defense! It's self-defense!
It isn't the way to do it! What are you defending yourself against, the window?
As the first session of the WTO was about to get underway, those same protesters squared off with riot police. Demonstrators set fire to trash bins. Police responded with tear gas and concussion grenades. It was a violent end to what had been a peaceful demonstration. Organized labor took to the streets, demanding the WTO recognize the rights of workers the world over. Tens of thousands of union members were brought in from across the country to protest the consequences of free trade. Mary Fleury, who came in from Ohio, lost her job when her company moved to Mexico.
We're just being swallowed up by corporate greed. We can't compete. I can't feed my family.
The Clinton administration has been pressuring the WTO to write a set of rules to protect labor. But U.S. officials admit the realities of expanded trade will threaten many traditional American jobs.
No question about it. There are changes that are going on, and there will be dislocations, there will be job loss, there will be job gain. What this is all about is trying to make sure that there's more positives than negatives.
But for the workers who turned out today, they find no good news in free trade and companies free to roam the globe for low-cost labor. When President Clinton arrives in Seattle tomorrow, he will again make the point that to preserve America's economic growth, companies must seek out new markets abroad. But he will also stress to the WTO that it is in everyone's interest to include workers in the progress toward global prosperity. Dan?
John Roberts in Seattle. President Clinton proposed new rules today that would let states use unemployment insurance funds to help pay for parental leave. This is designed to help new parents afford time off from work to care for newborn or newly adopted children. So far, 4 states have expressed interest in paying for parental leave: Washington State, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maryland. Still ahead on the hard news, CBS Evening News. Gulf War syndrome, a new discovery that could lead to better diagnosis and treatment. Egypt Air 990, a new theory about what may have happened to the aircraft as it was falling from the sky. And the forecast for the next hurricane season, plus what we learned from the season gone by.
Be a lot closer than you think. For information about flood insurance, talk to your agent or call 1-888-FLOOD-ALERT.
We take our sight for granted in America, but for many people, it's a luxury. Every year, LensCrafters runs Gift of Sight missions to bring sight to needy people around the world.
We change lives with these glasses.
You drop them off at LensCrafters and we'll get them to people who need them.
And just the look on their face, like, every single pair matters, and the more we collect, the more people we can help.
Please bring us your used glasses today.
Nobody does it like you.
Wind tunnel by Hoover is here. It's breakthrough technology. Tests show it picks up more dirt than any other clean air upright.
Nobody
Wind tunnel by Hoover.
does it like you.
Enterprise? You rented our car from Enterprise?
Yeah.
Why Enterprise?
Because they pick us up. Free.
A free pickup? Wow, they ought to be number one.
They are number one.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
On the CBS Health Watch, news tonight about women and lung cancer. Studies in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute suggest some women are at higher risk in two ways. The risk may be genetic in origin. Here's how and why. Women who smoke are up to 3 times more likely than men to get an aggressive form of lung cancer. It appears that a gene mutation in women may fuel the cancer. The research also shows women subjected to second-hand smoke have 6 times the normal risk of lung cancer. Also on the Health Watch, new data suggesting that Gulf War syndrome is not just in the minds of sufferers, it's in the brain, a chemical change that can and has been detected by late 20th century high-tech brain scans. CBS's Elizabeth Caledon has the facts.
There were days when even Chris Yarger questioned the existence of his Gulf War-related illness.
Am I not being tough enough or determined enough or motivated enough?
But now, for the first time, doctors have proof the 42-year-old veteran's extreme fatigue, weight loss, tremors, and pain can be linked to his brain.
In more simple terms, what we found was evidence for brain damage.
Using highly sensitive imaging technology known as spectroscopy, doctors in Texas compared the brains of veterans with Gulf War syndrome to healthy veterans.
They zeroed in on deep structures of the brain that control memory, concentration, and pain, and measured chemical levels in those areas, looking for abnormalities a regular MRI can't detect.
What we found
in every sick veteran tested, a key chemical that keeps the brain healthy was in short supply.
We believe this is due to actual structural injury to these brain cells deep in the brain, and that causes this chemical to be low in the sick veterans, but normal in the well veterans.
As many as 100,000 Gulf War vets have complained of debilitating symptoms believed to be associated with exposure to chemicals. There's even evidence that a pill given as protection from nerve gas may be the culprit. Whatever the cause, the Pentagon says today's finding is a big step forward. Doctors say it will lead to better diagnosis and treatment.
We can put behind us the time of controversial debate about a syndrome, whether there is a syndrome or not, and move on to there's a disease, what are we going to do about it?
It's all a relief to Chris Yarger, who for the first time is happy to know that the problem really is in his head. Elizabeth Caledon, CBS News, New York.
Next on the CBS Evening News, Bob Orr has some new information about the crash of Egypt Air 990 investigation.
As you might expect, Teller and I don't see eye to eye on investing. I like to avoid risk. Teller's a little more daring. We do, however, share the same new way to trade online.
Introducing Power Street by Fidelity, the first site with trading tools customized by Lycos to fit your unique way of doing things.
Look, the market's up, or in your case, down.
Power Street Online Trading. To find out how you could win free trades for life, visit Fidelity.com.
Well, all right. TaylorMade Energel Ball. Explosive distance, soft feel. I found them online and at 25 retail stores.
StoreRunner.com has shopping experts in every conceivable field, like Mark Anderson in sporting goods.
Ooh, Dunlop Double Titanium Ball and a Callaway Hawkeye Titanium Driver. Am I right?
StoreRunner.com. Log on, let's shop.
My driving test kind of got off to a bad start.
On calls like this, you want to talk a while. That's why it's always a good idea to dial 10-10-321.
Well, I thought I was in first.
With 10-10-321, you save 50% on calls over 10 minutes. Now, that's just 8 cents a minute, day or night.
I was supposed to turn on the blinker.
And no monthly fees. And at 50% off, you can go on and on and on.
So finally, I pull out of the parking space.
Talk as long as you want with 10-10-321.
Many women don't do anything about the risk of osteoporosis until menopause.
But if you've turned 40, you're already losing bone mass. I'm past 40 now, but I don't worry. Because I take Oscal every day. I call it my osteoporosis insurance. Only Oscal has been proven effective in more clinical studies and comes from a natural calcium source and has been recommended by more doctors than Caltrate and Citracal combined. Don't wait until menopause. If you're over 40, don't take chances. Take Oscal.
The investigation into the crash of Egypt Air 990 will enter a new phase next week. There are plans to try to recover wreckage, lots of it located on the bottom of the ocean. CBS's Bob Orr reports this does not mean investigators have changed their view of the most likely cause of that crash.
After weeks of using robotic cameras to map the crash site, investigators are preparing to pick up the fragmented wreckage of Egypt Air Flight 990. Radar data has shown signs of the plane breaking up at 10,000 feet, but investigators now suspect only parts of the jet flew off before impact. The wreckage field is so confined, the plane likely hit the water relatively intact. Sources say what's left of the Boeing 767 is concentrated in two large piles of debris, some 250 feet below the surface of the Atlantic. When the wreckage is retrieved, crash experts will study the jet's cockpit gauges, flight controls, and electronics. But privately, most investigators say they don't need any of the wreckage to solve the crash. The flight data recorder has revealed no problem with the airplane and has virtually ruled out an in-flight explosion or a structural failure. At the same time, the cockpit voice recorder has raised strong suspicions that co-pilot Gamil al-Batouti purposely put the plane into its fatal dive. Again today, U.S. and Egyptian authorities reviewed the tape, this time with the help of computer enhancements. Meanwhile, in Egypt, investigators continue to check out al-Batouti's background. Sources say nothing so far points to suicidal or criminal tendencies. And on the surface, al-Batouti's flight record seems clean. But sources say investigators apparently have found something in al-Batouti's background that troubles them. We don't know what that something might be. In an investigation that's as much about diplomacy as fact-finding, U.S. officials want to be very careful not to say anything more to further upset Egyptian authorities. But at the same time, pilot suicide is the only plausible theory on the table. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
On the CBS Market Watch, federal regulators today approved the mega merger of Exxon and Mobil after the big oil companies agreed to sell off, as a SOP for approval, 2,400 gasoline stations. Lawyers for Microsoft and the government met for the first time with a mediator. They're trying to settle the anti-monopoly case out of court. A new survey finds consumer confidence in the economy is up for the first time in 5 months, a sign Americans are in a spending mood. Investors were in a selling mood on Wall Street, taking profits on their high-tech stocks. The tech-heavy NASDAQ plunged 85 points. Up next on the CBS Evening News, the Russian winter, the war in Chechnya, and an accused American woman spy.
So instead of paying a separate commission every time you trade, you'd pay an annual fee, trade all you want.
All I want?
Yeah, virtually unlimited.
Oh, really?
Remember the financial plan we're working from here, Dad. The point is long-term capital appreciation.
I know.
You just don't want you sitting by the computer all day buying and selling stocks.
Yeah. Show me how I log on to your research.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Investing is serious business, Dad.
I promise I'll do my homework, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, gather one, gather all. You're going to see something that will truly astonish you. A talking dog. This dog not only speaks right, it's... Cowboys and cowgirls, come on over. I'm going to show you something truly amazing. This is an alien space egg, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, step right over this way and you will see the world's most amazing computer deal. That's right, it defies belief.
Computer deals that sound too good to be true usually are, unless it's a gateway PC. For $28 a month, you get a PC with a year of internet included from a company you can believe in. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Lauren and I could be the two most similar people in the world.
It's as plain as the nose on your face.
First off, we both love oatmeal with peaches and brown sugar.
Freaky.
Then we ate Quaker oatmeal for 30 days, and it helped both of us lower our cholesterol 13 points.
And we both use purple bowls, too.
Can you imagine two people more similar?
It's uncanny.
Quaker oatmeal warms your heart and soul.
Nana, what are you doing up?
You try sleeping with all this heartburn.
But you took those Tums before I left.
Honey,
I've been taking Tums since before you were born.
Nana, you could have stopped that heartburn before it started with Pepsid AC.
I do like eating your father's chili.
And you do like your sleep. So take one now. Pepsid AC controls acid all night.
Say, you ladies haven't finished all my chili. Oh, yeah.
Start sleeping heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
Russia today said it nabbed a spy at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. The Kremlin Secret Service showed a picture of Sherry Liebernight, a secretary at the embassy. She was arrested last night, then released. The Russians say she was caught in the act of spying. They refused to say whether this was a payback for the arrest of a U.S. naval officer suspected of passing secrets to Moscow. CBS's David Martin last night broke the story of Navy officer Daniel King, who reportedly confessed giving top-secret intelligence data to the Russians. Russia rained more bombs and rockets on the rebel province of Chechnya today, but as Russian troops close in on the Chechen capital, the Kremlin is acknowledging its campaign to crush Islamic rebels may not be over anytime soon. CBS's David Hawkins has the latest from the front.
Russian troops are facing fierce resistance as they attempt to encircle Chechnya's capital, Grozny, and choke off rebels there from resupply. The Chechens are counterattacking, staging ambushes and raids on the much larger Russian force. The rebels released a videotape of a Russian reconnaissance unit that was wiped out in the mountains southeast of Grozny 2 weeks ago. The pictures were broadcast yesterday on Russian television, which usually presents a much rosier view of the conflict. Russia's generals have also uncharacteristically admitted that they've suffered heavy losses recently. They seem to be preparing the nation for tough fighting and more casualties as their military campaign shifts from an air and artillery war to a ground offensive. Russia controls the northern half of the breakaway republic and for weeks has been pummeling Chechen cities and villages from afar. They've stepped up their attacks despite international criticism about their disregard for civilian casualties. More than 300,000 people have fled the fighting and are now living in refugee camps across the border where food and firewood are in short supply. Russia has brushed off Western attempts to send aid to the refugees, claiming it can handle the situation on its own. Foreign aid to Russia itself, though, is another matter. The Kremlin reacted angrily when the International Monetary Fund recently warned that the war in Chechnya could jeopardize any future loans to Russia. David Hawkins, CBS News, Moscow.
The CBS Evening News Weather Watch is next. We'll give you the outlook for next year's hurricane season.
Nobody in America sells more office products to more businesses than Office Depot.
You can shop our store.
Taking care of business.
Or you can shop our catalog.
Taking care of business.
You can shop online.
Taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business and working overtime. Work out.
Office Depot. Taking care of business.
Out here, am I supposed to say, slow down, I'm constipated? I don't think so. So I rely on doctor-recommended Metamucil. Works with my body, gently, which is important to a sensitive guy like myself.
It's time. Time for your heartburn to kick in because your heartburn relief gave out. It happens 2 or more days a week, even though you've treated it and changed your diet. That frequent, persistent heartburn may be due to acid reflux disease, potentially serious.
It's Prilosec time. Time to see your doctor about prescription Prilosec. Your results may vary, but for many people, Prilosec provides 24 hours of complete heartburn relief with 1 daily dose. Ask your doctor for more information about Prilosec and if it's right for you. The most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. 24 hours of complete heartburn relief is possible. It's Prilosec time.
This holiday, over 7 million pets will be homeless. But when you buy a limited edition PetSmart ornament for $4.99, you can help. All proceeds go to PetSmart charities to benefit local homeless animals. Make a pet's holiday wish come true at PetSmart.
I'm the Black & Decker floor buster. I eat broken glass for breakfast. I eat cat litter for lunch. Let's just say I have an insatiable appetite. I'm the floor buster. I'm built by Black & Decker.
On the CBS Weather Watch, a newly resurgent La Nina means winter will be stormier in the Pacific Northwest and drier in the Southwest. La Nina also affected the Atlantic hurricane season that officially ended today, and weather experts are already piecing together projections for hurricane season 2000. CBS's Byron Pitts is on the hurricane watch.
Hurricane season 1999 set records, took lives, and according to forecasters, gave a glimpse of what's to come. For the first time in recorded history, there were 5 major hurricanes this season with sustained winds of at least 140 miles per hour. Powerful storms with meek names like Brett, Cindy, Gert, and Lenny. But the worst of the bunch, the one that killed the most and destroyed the most, was Hurricane Floyd, a 10-day, $6 billion nightmare that made landfall in eastern North Carolina before going on a death march north into Vermont.
The story is not so much in the numbers of hurricanes and not in the intensity of the winds that accompanied the hurricanes, but in the tremendous amounts of rain and the tremendous amounts of inland flooding.
Today, experts said that although inland flooding may have been the legacy of 1999, it was the newly exposed danger and antiquated evacuation plans that may be one of its greatest lessons. Motorists were stranded for hours, delays that could cost lives in the future.
Can you imagine the devastation of a major hurricane tumbling gridlocked automobiles along and off flooded roadways?
In a season when so much went wrong, Dr. William Gray, the nation's leading expert on hurricanes, got it right. He predicted an active hurricane season this year and believes next year will be a bit milder.
Perhaps not the blockbuster year we've had in 98 and 99 and earlier in 95 and 6, but still a reasonably active year.
But Dr. Gray calls it a brief reprieve from what he foresees as a long stretch of hurricane seasons of historic strength.
We're likely to see hurricane damage like we've never previously seen it.
In the end, hurricane season 1999 may simply have been a dress rehearsal for even deadlier seasons to come. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Atlanta.
Of course, you don't need to be a weather expert to see there's been no shortage of unusual weather. From record high temperatures in Arizona yesterday, it was 87 in Tucson, to a month of near record highs in New Mexico, to the first ever snowless November in Chicago on record. But not to worry, don't put away the shovel. Snow is coming. Winter is coming. Some folks already know it, and these are some of the pictures to prove it. That's part of our world tonight. I'll be back later with an especially interesting 60 Minutes 2. Here's a preview. Consumer Reports test almost everything you buy, but the makers of this SUV say you can't trust the test. And in Las Vegas, they used to call him mouthpiece for the mob. Now they call him something else, mayor. Mike Wallace reports a 60 Minutes classic. 60 Minutes 2, tonight at 9, 8 Central Time, here on CBS. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. See you again soon on 60 Minutes 2.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the Internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
The #1 newscast at 6 o'clock for the people of Portland, Vancouver, and the Pacific Northwest with Shirley Hancock and Mike Donahue.